go along with the bees. If you use this stuff, she's heading for the front door along with the bees.
Does she actually leave the hive or just
usually the bees will form a big beard on the front of the hive. You use this too long, and she'll probably be down there in that beard someplace. But you can also use Bee Go to find a queen. For example, if you put a queen excluder on your hive, then you take some Bee Go, put it into your smoker, and put it into the hive, into the entrance of the hive. This will drive the bees up into the hive through the queen excluder, and the queen can't get to it. And so you can often find her on the bottom of the queen excluder.
Coughing, gagging.
Yeah, right. Now, I don't know whether bees cough and gag, but they certainly they're very sensitive to chemical smells. Okay, any other questions on? I thought since we are into talking about using fume boards to drive bees out of the honey supers, it might be good to talk about when can you start removing honey from the hive, which in itself is a whole new different topic. How many of you have some capped honey in your hive? Okay. And when are you going to start removing the honey?
Next fall.
Okay. Waiting until after September? Okay. Anybody? Barb's doing it now. Harry's doing some now.
I'd like to do it pretty soon.
Yes. As soon as you have capped honey in your hive, ideally you should have, if we have a honey frame, 2/3, 3/4 of it should be capped over. In other words, the bees will cap the honey and they have reduced the moisture content in honey. Honey is hygroscopic, which means it absorbs moisture. If you take off honey that hasn't been capped, it has a very high moisture content. And honey that has a high moisture content will ferment. And so you end up with fermented honey. Fermented honey will have a lot of bubbles in it. It will have a taste. And if you turn a bottle over that has honey in it, you have that little gap between the honey and the lid. You turn that over and that bubble shoots skyward toward the base of the honey jar very rapidly. If you have low moisture in honey, that bubble just slowly rises. Okay? Some people use that as an indicator of whether they have moisture in their honey. Yes.
How important is it? Do you always meter or check by metering the honey content?
Anytime you see honey, the buyer is going to check the moisture content of your honey. They want something under 18%. Okay? If honey has a 20% moisture content, it has to be dry. What they're going to do is pay you less for that if it still has an odd off taste. If it develops an odd off taste, they don't even want it.
I know in the video section at Haas, one booth was illustrating one of those digital refractometers.
Refractometers, yes.
Refractometers, right. I know it's a pretty expensive piece of equipment. It's the equipment here. But I would imagine there's cheaper meters, different ways.
You can buy a very inexpensive refractometer for $100.
That's useful.
That is useful, right? I have one, by the way. If anybody has a sample of honey, we could do that yet this one of the nights here in the bee yard. And if you had a sample of your honey, you only need a drop. Don't bring me a big jar. Okay, Dana, I've got a sample here. All you need is just a small sample. And we could take a droplet sample, just take a toothpick, back into the honey, down, put it on the refractometer, and
So they're accurate enough, less
enough,
expensive.
It's not going to be off that far.
Dana,
down the side, just like they do as if they have brood in the comb. And the center is going to be open. They'll cap that usually last. And so when you take your honey off, you have some frames that are completely packed. You also have some frames that have open cells that have honey in them, but they have not been capped. And the goal is to get at least 2/3 or 3/4 of the frame capped. Okay. So, and I'm going to make one other comment too. If you fed your bees sugar water, the bees will take that sugar water, reduce the moisture content, seal it in the cell, and cap it open. But that is not honey. That is called adulterated honey, because the sugars in honey are different than the sugars in cane sugar or beet sugar. And a person can submit that for analysis and determine whether it is actually honey or not.
The bees are okay eating that.
Yeah, it'll be
right?
fine eating it, right? Okay, but to sell it as honey,
Yeah, that's deceiving.
it's not. You know, I run into this every now and then. Somebody says, well, why don't I just feed my bees syrup? And you know, I can then sell that. Evaporate the moisture in it. Be very honest with you. Probably we've had honey that has been farmed for years, but most, not the farmers, they have there was a case in Michigan where a honey packer was accused of putting corn syrup with, you know, they would buy large quantities of honey, and then they would mix a barrel of corn syrup with each batch. Corn syrup sells at that time 19 cents a pound. Honey was selling for almost 50 cents a pound. So, honey. Like 300 pounds of corn syrup per hive. What's the risk?
Feeding their stooges.
Yeah, right. But when you get in court, it's hard to prove unless someone says, yes, I work for them and I dumped the corn syrup into the honey batch. Then, but that, what the government did is basically they had their bills for corn syrup, and other than probably the honey, and then some of the honey test positive or being contaminated. But then their answer to that was they bought Chinese honey, and they couldn't say that this Chinese honey, you know, and no one else could say that maybe the sample that the government had came from something like that, and therefore this honey packing company didn't know that they were packing honey that was adult. Okay? We're going to take just another few minutes to talk about taking off honey and when to take off honey. My feeling is, here in Ohio, we have the advantage of having two honey clubs.